Okay, so we got the front wheel bearings done. Now we're going to start on the rear wheel bearings. But just before we do, I want to show you what to check. I jacked the back end up here. It doesn't look like it, but the tire is off the ground. And what you want to do is put your hand on the top of the tire and rock it. There should be no movement. Okay, if there's movement in there, your bearings are probably gone. And you're going to see and hear by mine that they're even far, far worse than that. Those are shot bearings. Okay, so we got the rear tire off. Here's the hub assembly and brakes and everything. And you can see on mine right here, this is a 1-inch wheel spacer, which you probably won't have. The reason I did that is because the factory tires from the at the front are 8 inches wide and the back tires are 10 inches wide. So the back tires actually stick out farther from the factory. I put tires on this that are 9 inches wide front and back, which means my rear end tires were a little narrower and not running in the same track as the front ones. So I put 1-inch wheel spacers on there to compensate for that and put them in the same track. And some of you are gonna go, aha, wheel spacers. There's the reason your bearings are gone right there, because it puts more stress on the bearing. No, sorry, it did not cause this, because the front ones do not have wheel spacers on them, and they were just as bad, if not worse, than the rear ones. So the first thing we need to do here is to go ahead and remove the brakes, just like we've done before and like the other video shows. So we're going to take off the caliper unit and the backing plate. Okay, so we got the caliper off and we're just going to set that up there out of the way. And we got the backing plate off. We just set that down there out of the way, and now we just have the hub. It's very simple. We're going to take out the cotter pin and undo this 36mm nut. And then the whole hub pops off. Sorry, not the hub, the rotor pops off. Okay, so we got the cotter pin out, and now we're just going to buzz the nut off and take the whole rotor assembly apart. Just that easy. Okay, so as you can see, this is actually a lot easier and a lot less work than the front one. No ball joints or anything like that. Simply got to take this bolt out right here and this bolt out right here. And this is the hub where the bearing is. That comes right out then from the drive shaft. Okay, now just want to clarify something. It's important that you put this back together the right way, because they could go upside down. In other words, you could put this on the top and this on the bottom, and then your brake holder is going to be on the wrong side. It's not going to work. You have to take it all apart. So maybe just take a black magic marker like this, put a little line there, and now you know that goes to the top when you go to put it back in. Okay, so for this part, you need a 15mm socket and a 15mm wrench. I'm fortunate enough to have air, so I'm going to use the air. That's that. There's the hub with the bearing in it. That's simple to come apart, not that hard. Now I got to go change the bearing, which once again, I'm not going to get into. You're going to have to take this in and have it done by somebody if you have to change your bearings. Okay, so we have our old bearing out and our new bearing pressed in, the snap ring in, and we're going to go ahead now and grease it. By the way, I didn't mention this. These two bolts, the upper and lower bolt from here, they're identical, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. So we have our grease fitting here from Life Outdoors, all nice and clean because it was in the baggie. We're going to go ahead and drop that into the bearing, just like that. Okay, and then we're going to take our grease gun and pump that until we see grease come out like we did before. Probably be 30 pumps again or more. Okay, yeah, it was 31 pumps. Okay, so we don't care about the grease that's on the fitting. We don't care about the green grease you see coming out there between the bearing greaser and the inside of the bearing. What we care about is the blue grease you see coming out there. That tells you now the bearing is full once you see it coming out of there. That's the important part. Okay, so this one's done and can go back together. Okay, so we have all the excess grease wiped off of this. Mark at the top. We got our grease fitting back in the baggie in the box to keep it clean. So we're gonna go ahead and install this back onto here. I'm trying to do it one-handed. There, like that. Then we're gonna put the lower bolt in and the upper bolt in and do it up. Okay, that's back in. Now, before I do any more, I'm gonna go ahead and grease the upper and the lower here, simply because there's nothing in the way and it's easier to do. Okay, so we've gone ahead and cleaned up our hub first. It's really important that this surface right here be very clean, as well as all these grooves or teeth in here. Why? Well, that's what drives your vehicle. See, your drive shaft right here spins, turns, and it turns this right here, these teeth. These teeth mesh inside these teeth. Okay, so that's what turns this whole unit, and then of course your tire wheel bolts to that, so that's what turns your wheels and makes your vehicle go. So as long as this is good and clean, you can go ahead and put that back on there. Just take and put it on here right now. Just give it a little wiggle to line it up. Good. And you'll see your nuts, your shaft is sticking out there. You take your washer, put that on. Make sure you put that washer on. And your castellated nut, castle out. Put that on. And tighten this up to 100 foot-pounds to start. Okay, so we got it back on. Got the tightened to 100 foot-pounds, and then the hole didn't quite line up. Now, it's important to notice that there's two holes through this shaft. One's going this way, one's going this way. You keep tightening the nut until you get the first hole, whichever way it is, to line up. Don't loosen it, you tighten it. Once you get it to line up, you stop and you put your cotter pin in, and that's it. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and put the caliper backing plate back on and put the brakes back on, and this side's done. Okay, one thing I didn't mention, if you're going to replace your brake pads, you need to push this piston back in, but this just doesn't push in like it does on the front. Okay, so first of all, you need to clean this up really well before you put it back in. Otherwise, you're going to just shove dirt back into the caliper and cause it to seize. Okay, then in order to do this job, you need one of these cubes. It's a brake cube. Okay, you can get these very cheap, Canadian Tire, place like that, and you'll see the nipples on that. That's just going to click into there like that, and you're going to take and put your extension into there and attach it to the ratchet, and then turn it clockwise. As you turn clockwise, it's going to go back in, and then you can put your new brake pads on. Okay, so that's it. She's all back together. All I got to do now is throw the wheel on and it's done. It's actually a lot easier than doing the front one. A lot faster. This did not take long. Like even changing the bearing 45 minutes. Without that, just 30 minutes off and on. Okay, so the wheel is on. It's still up in the air. As you can see, it still moves. But there is no movement this way. No noise, no movement. You know, like I said in the other video, if I'd have known I had to take these things apart once a year in the off season and grease them, I could have saved a lot of work and money by not having to replace bearings. In my case, because I do a lot of deep mud once in the off season and once partway through the season to grease them. The maintenance is worth it to do it, to be able to play like that and not have the stuff damaged and spend hundreds of dollars on new parts that shouldn't have to. So I hope this helps, and happy trails.